Hello and welcome to another edition of the How to Grow Your E-commerce Business podcast. As ever, I'm here with my partner in crime, Tom. And today, what are we going to talk about, Tom?
Well, today we're going to talk about alternative marketplaces, I thought, Trevor. How does that sound?
That sounds good. So what do you mean by an alternative marketplace?
Well, I suppose really, I mean anything that's not Amazon or eBay. So Amazon is obviously going to be your biggest marketplace for almost every category of product and almost every Western country. And eBay is probably going to be, a fairly distant number two. So what we mean by alternatives is anything that's not those. And, there's loads of marketplaces out there, and they can be a nice addition to your e-commerce sales. They're probably not going to, change your life, but for some of them, you can set them up, and for pretty, relatively little effort, you can generate some meaningful sales that are kind of like the jam on the top of your e-commerce bread and butter.
Yes, a nice analogy. Yeah, so if you're using a system like, for example, Linworks will integrate with a lot of marketplaces, and you're offering your products to more people. A lot of these marketplaces have loyal followers or loyal customers, and they will go to there first as opposed to somewhere else. And if you're particularly, it's always good in life and e-commerce and business to diversify, though you can take that too far, because with diversification comes complexity. So on one hand, you get more sales. On the other hand, you get more complexity. But hopefully, what you're really aiming for, I think, is incremental sales without additional incremental hassle.
Yes, I'd agree with that. And yeah, I think it's also worth saying that probably for every 10 marketplaces you launch on, other than of these kind of minor marketplaces, out of the 10, you'll probably get 2 or 3 that you think, yeah, those are winners, and I'm glad I've done it. And you'll probably get a few where you might make no sales at all, and then a few where it's just generating, hundreds of pounds, low thousands of pounds that just make you think, yeah, I'm not sure if it's worth it.
Yeah, it's got to be worth it. They've got to be good enough that you actually can put enough time in to keep them going. Because if the sales are pretty, otherwise you'll put a whole lot of work in to begin with, and you won't. You'll just never update it, because some of them are a bit of a pain to update.
Yeah. So and the trouble with any kind of e-commerce business is resource limited. So, if you launch one of these things and you're generating £500 a week or something like that, and it probably isn't worth plowing loads and loads of time and effort to build it up to £500 a week. You might want to focus your effort where you're going to get a bigger
bang. These things work pretty quickly or not at all. That's my experience.
Yes,
that's actually just almost everything works pretty quickly or not at all. I'm trying to think of anything that actually didn't work to begin with and then started working later. Yeah, so that's a good lesson in life. So, Tom, let's go through them. What's the first one? Which ones are we going to talk about?
Well, let's start with Frugo, because we've had some good success on that in the past. What's Frugo all about?
So Frugo is, I think, probably the biggest UK-owned marketplace. It's really, what Frugo does is they're very good at, okay, so it's a marketplace, but it's really what they do is they effectively provide a new way for you to access Google Shopping. So they do have a site, Frugo. They advertise that on Google Shopping, and what that means is if you sell on Frugo, you will have your products will be your own website if you're using Google Shopping, and then you'll have Frugo as well. And so you can effectively have 2 listings on that. For whatever reason, they seem to do quite well internationally. It's very internationally focused. They do well in the Scandies. It is
and Switzerland.
Yes, and Switzerland. They do well in somehow. I'm not entirely sure how, because I suspect they're going to be using Performance Max campaigns like everyone else. So quite how they're better at it, I don't know. Maybe they do. Anyway, they're good at Google Shopping. They charge about 50. I mean, we used to do about 10% of our sales through Frugo, so it was pretty significant.
It's between 5 and 10, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a little bit of a bugbear about Frugo. In that, if you go to their website, they tell you about how they, hand you back your money in local currency, etc., etc. What they don't tell you is that they mark up the price of your products considerably in overseas countries. So, and that's where they take their margin, is by, if the RSP is £20 in the UK, they will translate that into €25, and then they'll add on another €10 just because they can.
Yeah, they do make it most spectacular. They kind of pretend that's for your benefit, but it's not.
Yes, and they keep that.
Yes, they're a bit naughty about that.
But,
Yeah, that's quite
but
annoying.
the upside of that is they don't compete against your own website sales in those countries because they are more expensive. So I suppose you could take
Yeah.
the rough with the smooth there.
They're also it's very easy to set up. All you need is we always need an account with them, but you just need a Google feed into their system. Off you go. It's very easy to do. So from that point of view, I think it is a definite goer. So that's a good opportunity.
Okay, so that's kind of like an international. It covers all territories. Tell us about Walmart, which is obviously very much based in the US.
Walmart's like the world's biggest retailer, probably still the world's biggest retailer.
I believe it is.
They have a marketplace, which I don't know that much about, other than it's a catalog-based marketplace. They have Walmart, Walmart Fulfillment, WFS, Fulfillment by Walmart, FBW, Fulfillment by Walmart. They do allow international sellers. I think it has to be tracked, but they do allow international sellers. I think that it generates pretty good sales, and I think it's growing. I think it's, having looked at the back end of it, it doesn't look anything like as sophisticated as the other platforms. But I think that if you can do it, I definitely would give it a go.
Yeah, I think it's a fairly quick and easy way to get into the US market, if that's what you want to do from outside the US. Or if you're in the US, you're just going to reach people that you wouldn't reach necessarily through Amazon. It's not going to be it's going to be a fraction of the size of Amazon, but it could still be good incremental sales.
Yeah, only 20 years after Amazon launched.
Why did it take them so long?
That is amazing. I mean, what if Tesco's and Sainsbury's? I mean, there was a time when obviously Tesco's and Sainsbury's were hugely bigger than Amazon, and now they're, God, would they even be a hundredth of the size?
Yeah,
Don't know what Tesco's is worth.
I spent 4 interesting years at Sainsbury's at the time when they were launching their e-commerce offering, and whilst they had some success just selling groceries, I mean, Tesco did try and launch a marketplace, as you well know, Trevor. And
they almost did it. They threatened to do it and then didn't do it.
Well, they put their own business first, rightly or wrongly. And,
well, see, that was the thing about Amazon. You see, it's amazing when you think about it. I mean, much as we slag off Amazon, right? They let you compete. They let third-party sellers, broadly speaking, compete against them at the same level. Broadly speaking, that we can argue about, much more than other people do. So I tried to sell on Halfords, and they said, okay, they'll only let you sell things they don't sell already. They only let you list a certain. I went and said, can I list 2,000 products? And they said, well, we'll only let you we're going to let you list 100 things a month, and it's only things we don't already sell because we want to, And so they just didn't let you compete. And it was a similar thing with Tesco's. They wouldn't let you compete against them or compete against their other sellers. So it was, much as we like to slag off Amazon, that was fairly revolutionary what they did. And I think, I don't even know, I mean, I haven't seen Walmart, but whether Walmart allows you to compete against them or not. But the problem is also with things like with Tesco's, is that they were, if marketplaces are picky about who they let on, it means that the integrators like Linworks have less incentive to integrate with it, which means again that they get fewer people because there's a whole lot of people who won't go unless they're integrated with it. So whereas Amazon will just let anyone on, which is one of the reasons why they have such enormous uptake. You see, these companies, these marketplaces, which are difficult to list on and difficult to get difficult to get an account with, and are fussy about how they get the data and stuff like that, means they have fewer sellers, which means that it never really takes off.
Yeah. So should we just talk about integrations for a moment? Obviously, how you connect your own e-commerce system to these marketplaces is key as to how quick and easy it is and whether it works. What are your views on this?
Well, I think that, look, I mean, I'm very much a kind of a straight-through processing kind of guy. I think that it's hard to do this without integration because you just spend your whole time, you get enough problems as it is. I mean, you can sometimes do kind of backdoor integrations where you do something like, you have a product, a marketplace that integrates with Shopify, or integrates with Linworks. So you can kind of do it like that. But I would not do things unless they're integrated. And you do get problems with things like drop shipping where it's not integrated, where you don't have, live feeds and stuff. And you get what ends up happening is a small number of your sales or, orders generates a huge proportion of your problems. So I probably would just avoid it.
Yeah, so add a preference. It's use your e-commerce system and connect directly through a kind of recognized existing API to whatever platform it is, and that's probably the best way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean,
Shopify does have lots of APIs themselves. That can be a good way. So, for instance, we have clients where we're running eBay through Shopify. Through
yeah, I mean,
Shopify
Shopify Marketplace Connect is free. I don't know how well it works. It works all right.
It's fine. It's absolutely fine. It's not fancy and sophisticated, but it does what it needs to do. So yeah, it runs.
I would be tempted if I had my own e-commerce business, because I like to fiddle. I'd probably just do it all through Shopify. I'll certainly try. Yeah. But then you do get, the thing is, you do end up when your volumes grow, some of these free apps, particularly on the warehousing and the shipping side of things, they're quite expensive. I think the marketplace integration probably works better than the shipping side of things. So, for example, if you wanted to, if you're using in the UK, Raw Mail has a Shopify app, but it's not very good. You probably need something better than that. And then at which point, when you start spending money on things, it quite quickly becomes the case. Something like Linworks has it all in one place and means you don't have to splice together lots of other integrations. And it's probably worth the money from that point of view.
Yeah,
I think.
I think especially as your catalog gets bigger and the range of places you sell on gets bigger, it is better to invest in a proper e-commerce system than trying to splice together your own tech stack.
Well, yeah, and also, I mean, for most people, that's not your competitive advantage. You're never going to get. I mean, maybe if you're M&S or something like that, you might want a system which is bespoke to you, because you think that's your advantage. But if you're a small retailer, it's not your advantage. You're not a tech company. So don't pretend you are.
Agreed. Right. Let's get back to some alternative marketplaces. Let's go to France. Cdiscount.
Cdiscount is actually it's not as big as Amazon, but it's like of the same scale. I think it might be half the size of Amazon or something.
I believe roughly that.
And it's a catalog-based system, which means that you have to, there's a listing, and then multiple people list against it. It's pretty successful in my experience, though it was quite hard to use at one point. I think it's better now.
It has its own fulfillment, so
yes,
it's a way of getting into France.
Yeah, that's true. So it's good. I think if you're interested in selling in France, it's definitely something to look at. Much better. I mean, other options in France there's Rakuten and there's Fnac and things, which I think aren't worth the effort. But I think Cdiscount is worth the effort, though it's a bit fiddly. And yes, I think it is. I think it's what else can I tell you about it? Fees are about 15%. I think so. It's an opportunity which is probably half the size of Amazon, but that in France is pretty big.
Yeah, and it's got integrations with Linworks, so
it's easy to set up an account, relatively easy to ship to France. You can, relatively easy to get your money back using something like Payoneer. Jobs are good.
Yeah. Okay, Allegro.
Allegro is Polish. Now, I've always thought it's the biggest marketplace in kind of Eastern Europe, particularly Poland. I've always thought that it had a really big opportunity. It was a really good opportunity. I found it very hard to use. Yeah. But I've never really managed to generate any sales off it for reasons that aren't clear to me.
Well, we generated a little bit in the past in the Hello Baby days, but
really just a little bit, though, like, tens of sales.
And we've got a client who've launched on it 2 or 3 months ago and have had no sales at all.
Really? That is.
But then they've struggled in Poland on the website and on Amazon as well. So it might just be that their product in Poland just isn't a fit. So
it's hard to use. I mean, the system's hard to use as well, I think. I mean, it's better than it used to be, but it was hard to use. And the integration is quite poor.
And it probably requires some advertising to get off the ground as well. And you kind of think, shall I pour advertising into a market and a channel that might just be niche? And so
I don't know. I mean, I don't know where those 50 million Poles are buying stuff. I mean, on the face of it, you look at these things, you think, oh, there's 50 million Poles. Where are they buying stuff? They're buying Allegro. Are they interested? Is it just that they don't buy brands, or I don't know. I don't know why. It seems on the face of it that there's, should be a really successful marketplace.
Yeah.
It should be.
Maybe it's for the right product Maybe it is. So this is what I said earlier. It's very hard to predict in advance which of these are going to work for your specific products and brands. So you just got to suck it and see. So
Yeah.
if you get into Poland,
I
always
thought it to work better than it actually does. I've never managed to get it to work.
OnBuy, one of your favorites.
OnBuy is a bit of a mystery to me, right? Of all the things, so they spent years setting it up. It's a UK-based marketplace. It's pretty much like Amazon, really. So quite why they thought that that was the best use of their money, of all the things they could do, I'm not entirely sure. I'm quite surprised it's still going. My experience is it generates a bit of sales. I was talking to someone who said it generated quite good sales in the kind of DIY space, possibly because they do kind of promotions and stuff. But it's a catalog-based system like Amazon. It's UK-based. Anyone can set up an account. You know, we used to do 1% of our sales through it or something, so something quite limited, but easy enough to set up. Just UK-based, though I think they have international. They do, and again, they're buying traffic through Google Shopping.
Yeah.
So you would have your website, Frugo, and then Google Shopping. But I don't know. Not something I would get particularly excited about, but it might be worth a try. They would certainly tell you it is.
Don't they all?
They would definitely tell you it's worth a try.
Okay, Bol.com.
Bol is big. Bol is big in the Netherlands. It's bigger than Amazon. It certainly used to be.
Amazon were late into the Netherlands.
Yeah, it's big in the Netherlands. Booked online. Lovely people as well. Really helpful. Really helpful. Like if you've got a problem, they'll actually help you. And, you can actually talk to a real person. And, you'll ask same with eBay, actually. If you've got if you're a reasonable company and you've behaved reasonably, then they'll treat you reasonably. I got the account shut down because I missed some email, and they got the account shut down on Bol. And on Amazon, that would have been curtains. It would have been locking myself to the railings outside the Bishopsgate office, which was actually incidentally on my list of escalations.
I'm almost sorry they reopened the account.
It was actually incidentally on my list of escalations. I don't know how. Yeah, well, I got to turning up to the Amazon office and giving them a letter, and then they threatened to call security. I just literally turned up and said, "Can I hand in this letter of the MD?" And they said no. And I said, "Surely I must be able to." And they said, "Well, no, you can't. And if you want to discuss this further with someone, the security guard's over there." Literally, I mean, I just couldn't get over it.
Well, you look a bit dodgy.
Well,
anyway, get back to Bol.
Yes, okay. Bol, it's a catalog-based system. It's quite hard to set up on. So you need to have an EU after Brexit. You need to have an EU entity to sell on it. It's a catalog-based system. They do have some quite strict performance measures. So they made Amazon's performance. I mean, having said that, Amazon increased their performance measures these days, but they did have some quite strict performance measures, and they had quite a complicated catalog. So it was reasonably difficult to sell on, and the integrations because there's not many people selling on it from the UK. The integrations are quite poor, don't really exist. But it's definitely after Brexit, it's much harder to sell on it. But before then, it was a no-brainer, and used to do about 10% of our sales through it.
Yeah,
it was great. So I think it is, if you are serious about selling and you think you've got an opportunity to sell into the Netherlands and Belgium for that matter, the low countries, in fact, I think it's definitely worth a look.
Yeah. Okay. Tmall,
I think the allure of China, right? I think undoubtedly it's fair to say there's, 1 billion Chinese or probably more. But it's very hard to set up on. It works quite differently. You need to go for a Tmall, but you can't just set up on it, and you can't just, you need to give them a $25,000 deposit, and you need to have a letter saying that, from all your brands saying that you have the right to sell in China. So what they're really looking for is big Western brands to set up Tmall stores, like Brompton, like Cambridge Satchel Company, like, I don't know, Burberry or someone like that. They're not looking for little, companies. They're looking for companies that will go in for it. And you need to go for a Tmall partner. You can't just do it yourself. The model's quite different in that you pay quite a small listing fee, like 5%, and then you have to buy ads on top of that. But it's it's not something that I know. I don't think I know anyone that actually sells on it, but it's quite, the allure, the idea. If you could nail it, I think it would be amazing. So
Well,
you've got
the
quite a
volume
big
would
brand.
be immense.
Well, you can. I mean, I think that the things, if you look at Amazon listings, I mean, I think they work quite differently, because what you do is you have a very long listing with lots of information and photos and whatever, and people leave very detailed feedback, and they put an awful lot of, awful lot of time into each individual listing. So it's quite a different way of doing it. And I think also some of these things that I tried, I had this idea of selling on, is it Baidu or something, the search engine. And I think that, you go into, I thought, well, I'd set up a Chinese website and then get traffic from Baidu. And it works very differently from how you'd expect. There's like a quote. You have to you go to a website, you don't buy it, you get a quote first, and they give you the quote, and then you buy it. I just didn't really understand it at all. But again, look, if you can nail it, if you've got products that people want in China, it's definitely worth looking into. But you have to really be thinking, I'm going to be selling 50, 100 grand a month to make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think it used to be said that that the US was a graveyard of British businesses, whereas I think with Amazon it's much easier into the US now, and we certainly recommend it and have had good success with British companies on US Amazon. China is probably that graveyard, much harder to get into, regulatory issues as well. So
they make it. I think that I think they don't want UK brands. They don't want UK companies. I mean, things about if you look on Amazon UK and you choose any category, a lot of the products will be Chinese.
Yeah,
a lot of them because we just let Chinese sellers in.
Yeah,
and I do think, much as I hate Donald Trump, I do think it is he does. It's possible for someone to be a total arsehole and destructive and a really malicious individual and not be wrong about everything. And one of the things I think, the UK and the US let Chinese sellers just sell on these platforms.
Yeah.
And I suspect a lot of them aren't paying tax. And it's impossible to do it the other way around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you've got a big brand, I think Tmall might be worth looking at. Okay.
Moving on. Lazada.
Lazada is big in Southeast Asia. So it's big is it the number one? Certainly countries like, it's Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, maybe Vietnam. I can't remember. It's the biggest thing in there. You have to get your stuff to a fulfillment center in Hong Kong, which Lazada got about 90% of the way of setting it up and then never did it because I couldn't get the stuff to Hong Kong because I was using this useless courier, and I just thought it's going to lose it all. You have to put it in box. So you'd have to print the stuff, put the labels on it, put it in a box, send to the fulfillment center in Hong Kong, which just wasn't practical. But it is the way of reaching people in Southeast Asia, along with I think Amazon certainly in Singapore. But anyway, yes. Other than that, you have to get your stuff to a fulfillment depot because they do the last mile.
Yeah, which is probably good because you don't want to do it from here, but find a way of getting stuff there. And I'm sure it's doable if you can find the right partner to work with, the right freight forwarder who will do it for you. I mean, with all these things, if you're just sending the odd box, it can be an issue. It's always easier to send containers, but very few of us actually selling container volumes to markets like Lazada.
Yeah, it's a bit like with certain things. I saw in Amazon China once. I mean, it's all right if you're doing a lot, because what you need to do, because each of these, somewhere like we'll talk about South America in a minute. Let's talk about South America.
Let's talk about it now.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So Mercado Libre. It's big in South America. The problem in South America, it's difficult to set up an account, and it's impossible to send things to South America. Now, well, you need to use a specialist local courier. Same with a lot of these countries. You need a specialist local courier because just sending it via raw mail track just doesn't work. Right, raw mail international track just doesn't work. You'll just get lost. And the problem with that, it's fine to use a local courier, but you need to have enough stuff going in a box frequently enough, because you need to label it with their label and then put it in a box and then send it to their hub in Heathrow, and then they'll inject it into the system. So you could do that, but you need quite big volumes to do that, and you're just probably not going to get them because it's too expensive. So, it's a similar thing. I tried selling on Amazon Mexico, and, you might as well chuck it out the window.
Well, a lot of these countries don't have an address system.
Yeah, not in the way that that's one of the things that we in this country, in the UK, the things that we take so for granted we don't even know they're things, right? We don't know that addresses are things. I mean, we don't know that product safety is a thing, and we don't know that addresses are a thing, but they really are. So in India, they don't have addresses in the way that we have addresses.
Yeah.
So
yeah, in a lot of South America, you send letters and people collect them from the post office. People have a box in the post office, and I guess it probably used to be more like that over here back in Victorian times. But you have a key to your little box, and that's where your post goes, and you drop in and collect it.
I wonder if it's going to come to that in the UK again, actually.
Yeah, well,
I think it's
the last mile is always the biggest challenge, isn't it? So,
well, if we had a depot at the end of every street, then you wouldn't need so many cars driving around, would you, all the time?
And I guess, there's plenty of these lockers where you can get, your Amazon stuff delivered to your locker and you pick it up wherever. So
imagine if it was cheaper. If someone said to you, right, okay, you can get it delivered to your house for £1 more than it is to the locker. I just go and pick up the locker because I'm cheap.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mercado Libre, it's a big opportunity, but again, it's hard to set up an account. It was hard to, everything about it. I mean, if you think about these marketplaces, you need to be able to open an account, and not everyone will. A lot of places will just let you do it, but some places won't. And Mercado Libre, it was hard to do that. You need to be able to get the money back, and that's not always as easy as it should be. You need some of these places. You need like a local bank account or something like that, so you can't do that. And you need to be able to ship it there. And a lot of countries, that's fine. You can use like raw mail in some capacity or other, even if it's raw mail tracked. But I can tell you for certain countries like South America, that won't work. So you need to use a local courier. But to do that, you need to have enough stuff that you're going to put it in a big box every other day or every day and then send it to their hub, and all the costs involved with that and the hassle. So, and I think with Mercado Libre just never got to that situation. They were threatening to do so, have some sort of hub in the UK. You'd send it, and they'd send it over for you, but they never did. Right. So I don't know. I don't know anyone was selling on it. It seems like a good idea.
Okay, one last thing to talk about: Miracle marketplaces.
So these are what Miracle, and there's another system that does this. I can't remember the name of, but that enables big retailers to set up their own marketplaces. So an example of that would be DIY. So Miracle manages DIY's marketplace, the range. I think Boots might have one.
Carrefour's on there.
Yes, Sephora have got it
on there. Yeah. So
I think
what's good about
Decathlon.
What's good about it is that there's a lot of marketplaces, and you can find one that matches your specific product category. So I think that's the advantage of it. It integrates directly with, I believe, both something like Linworks, but also Shopify. So there's good connections to it. It really then comes down to the individual marketplace. For instance, we looked at Debenhams, and the referral fee, the fee they were charging was 25%, when Amazon take 15%, and even that seems a lot. So
that was horrendous.
It was never going to work. So
so I think it's worth doing. It is quite fiddly. It certainly used to be quite fiddly to do, and it's the usability of it's not great. Yeah. So
and each individual marketplace on there, of which there's 100, maybe more, all of them have their own requirements. So it's an aggregator of marketplaces, but it doesn't make life much easier.
Yeah, one of those things that threatened to be quite good. I thought, well, if you could just set up one and then one place and then use the same inventory across different marketplaces, but I don't think it works that easily, does it?
No. But it's worth having a look at, certainly. And if you are strong in a particular category, and that category is represented on Miracle, by the
because we've got a client that does DIY stuff, and that means that they can start selling on they do water filters. So
they're selling on B&Q, and it's not changing their world, but for literally no hassle, now it's set up, they get an income stream. So
another DIY one is Manu, but I know actually nothing about that other than it's DIY.
Well, we tried with this client, and just had a flat refusal. They didn't want to list us.
It's strange, isn't it?
Strange. Who knows?
So we done? Should we go on to?
I think we're done. I mean, I think what I would say is just when you've got a bit of time and energy, try, work out your top 10 list of these alternative marketplaces and just work down the list, and just, they may well work or they might not. And if they work, then it's great, and you're just building a business.
So, Tom, what has inspired you, or what have you been this week in which Donald Trump went back to the presidency quite inexplicably, from my point of view?
I've avoided anything to do with US politics. I can tell you what did inspire me. On Tuesday, I went to see what Trevor would probably describe as the least cool band in the world, and they're not a cool band, a band called Magnum. But what inspired me in particular was that the lead guitarist died at the start of last year, I think, and this was their first tour without him. But the guy who's kind of stepped up to take over the lead guitarist duties was their guitar tech, and so he knew all the songs, and this was the first gig he did with the band, and he just nailed it. And I think there's a message there for everyone, isn't there? That you can be sat in the shadows for a long time, but when your opportunity comes, and it will come at some point, you just got to grab it. And he really did, and he looked like he was having fun, and the fans loved him. So that's all that mattered.
Has anything inspired me this week? Oh, I went skiing last week with a whole lot of Irish dairy farmers, and they all seem to be enjoying life quite a lot. They're having fun in the outdoors. They
laugh at themselves. They buy their salopettes from Lidl, all of them. So they say you can always spot the Irish skiers because they've all got the Lidl salopettes on. Yeah,
there was something they were talking about, getting a Lidl helmet or an Aldi helmet or something. I don't know. Maybe just buy everything from Aldi over there.
They do.
I don't know. I'm sure there must be some joke about Irish skiing people. But I tried to find if there was any, and they didn't think it was as funny as I did.
I'm just glad you haven't mentioned that you're Irish.
Yeah, I am Irish. Oh, I haven't mentioned that. My Irish passport. Until we meet again, Tom.
Until next week.
Bye. Bye.